I think that's a really big issue with a lot of the fertility problems these days, especially for women who are struggling with the fertility part, is that we have been in this culture, maybe a little bit more of that feminist mindset of like, oh, I can do what men can do. Like I can be the boss babe and I can make things happen. And that energetically and biologically is a mismatch.
Mm,
Someone who wants to actually create life because you need to be able to slow down. You need to nurture yourself. You need to first, if you want to nurture a baby, if you want to, be able to grow and create and care for a baby, you need to do that for yourself first. So if you're struggling with fertility, you need to focus on, okay, how can I tap into this mother nurturing energy for myself? How can I slow down? How can I focus on nourishing foods? How can I create more space to just be instead of having to fill that time with doing?
mm.
How can I allow my body to do what it needs to do instead of me trying to force it to do what I think it needs to do in the time that I think it needs to be done?
This is the Earthbound Parenting Podcast, where we discuss all things pregnancy, birth, postpartum, partnership, parenting, and how to take radical responsibility in each one. Being earthbound is a wild adventure, so allow me to be your guide. I'm your hostess, Haya Shual, traditionally trained birth guardian, birth educator, and mother of 4 unassisted home birthed boys. In today's episode, I have the privilege of speaking with Kelsi Plante. She is the owner of Medicine Hive. She is a vitalist and an herbalist, and she is altogether wise on all things vitality. She speaks to us today about how to take fertility into our own hands by becoming our most vital, healthy versions of ourselves. She talks about how we can achieve that, all the ways in which it's accessible and within grasp. And so, without further ado, let's get into it. Kelsi Plante is a holistic health practitioner and educator who weaves nature based wisdom from vitalist healing traditions into modern bioenergetic understandings of health. She's the creator of Medicine Hive, where she helps people remember the importance of reconnecting with nature and living in harmony with natural design. Her mission is to nourish and transform with the wisdom of nature, fostering a vibrantly healthy, conscious, and connected community. One that honors each of our unique medicines, the medicines of nature, and the vital energy that enlivens it all. Welcome, Kelsi. Thanks for being here. This is the Earthbound Parenting Podcast, and I'm excited to have you on to talk about all of this great stuff about vitality and how that affects fertility and all that good stuff. So, diving right in, how do you describe true vitality and how is that connected to fertility? Walk us through all of that.
Yeah. So vitality, when people think of health, they think normally in terms of like how often you have symptoms, how well your body moves, how good you feel. And that is definitely part of our vitality. Um, our vitality is not just the absence of symptoms, because symptoms are, through my lens and the way that I work with people, symptoms are, it's communication from the body. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if you have symptoms, but we do want to make sure that we have good energy levels and we're balanced and not going through these dips and not frequently ill, having symptoms. Vitality is basically the amount of energy that our body has, the amount of energy running through it. That energy is what runs all of our cells, all of our tissues, the organs, all of it. And it's the surplus vital energy that feeds into our fertility. So when we have enough vitality, enough vital energy, we naturally have healthy fertility. And it is much easier to create new life from that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel
Yeah.
like it actually is, I think, pretty simple. Maybe not like it probably depends on like where somebody's starting and like where they're individually at and that sort of thing. But like in general, the concept is really quite
Hmm.
simple. Like it makes a lot of sense. And it's funny that I think sometimes we overcomplicate things like this, where it's
Yeah.
like, or we think, we hear that it's simple, this idea, like the concept sounds too simple, like too good to be true almost.
Yeah.
And but that's not well, but that's kind of where you come in and like your expertise with this is like again addressing the individual and that sort of thing because again it doesn't just because the concept is simple doesn't mean that it's going to be a simple journey for somebody to actually walk this out and tap into that vitality and stuff for themselves. But so what does that you mentioned that fertility and procreation and all of that that's like a natural result of abundant vitality. So what does that mean like just explain to us what vitality means biologically as well as energetically.
Hmm. So that would be like, your digestion is great. Your elimination is working properly. Um, your cycles as a woman are um, normal for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 28-day cycle. We have, variation in the length of time, but you should have a fairly regular cycle, should be fairly pain-free. You should be ovulating no problem. You're not having crazy like hormonal outbreaks or emotional stuff come up. For men, they have healthy uh, testosterone cycles, signs of vitality in those areas, and not a low libido, healthy sex drive, and everything. We want to make sure that we have energy throughout our day. Our thyroid is operating properly. Our blood sugar, we're not going through these highs and lows, riding that roller coaster. We're resilient when it comes to stressors in our life. We don't want to be
Mm,
chronically stressed. We want to be able to adapt, to respond to different things going on in our life, but we don't want to become stuck in that, sympathetic stress state or end up moving into the parasympathetic freeze state either. We want to be able to move between those in a healthy way. Um, let's see. Also, biologically, we would have even some things that we don't normally think of, like our skin is nice and clear, our hair is not falling out, our nails
mm,
aren't brittle. Like those are signs that you're deficient in something. It might not necessarily be energy. It might be more of the building blocks, minerals, and certain nutrients that you might need. But those obviously relate to our vitality because even if we have enough energy, we still have to have the building blocks in order to, help our body regenerate and repair. And then obviously, if we're going to create new life, we need those in order to create a new little human too. So, um, yeah, those all might be signs of our physical vitality. Energetically, again, we're thinking of like the flow of energy through the body. We want to make sure that it's flowing without obstruction. If it seems like it's getting, stuck somewhere, if we're experiencing areas, certain organs that don't seem to have quite as much energy as they need in order to function, like it also might just be like kind of a kink in the hose, like the energy
mm,
system is blocked somewhere. And that's something that you would address more so with, say, acupuncture or other modalities that work more with freeing up the flow of energy through the body.
mm,
And then we also think about like uh, in terms of grounding, we want to make sure that we're not building up this, our modern lives, we are around so many, you know, devices, our screens, we have Wi-Fi, we have cell towers. All of these things are invisible waves that are coming to our body. They're affecting our body's energy system, our biofield. And this leads to oxidative stress.
Mm,
We have these free radicals. Then we have this buildup of positive energy, which sounds like it would be good, but it's not. We actually want more negative charge in our body,
mm,
and we discharge that positive energy buildup by grounding. So making contact with the earth, bare feet on the ground, touching trees. You can also do like grounding sheets or mats or whatever. That helps to balance out the. It's called redox in our body. Our cells have the reduction oxidation process. That's how energy is created. And if it's imbalanced, then we have a buildup of that positive charge, which leads to chronic inflammation and contributes to so many different diseases that we
yeah,
might be dealing with. So, you can think of it as an electrical system. Our bodies are electric. So um, you want to make sure that energy is flowing through clearly. It's not imbalanced in any way. And we want to make sure that it's coherent. We're not running in like, you know, it's not staticky. It's not, chaotic. It's coherent. It's flowing smoothly, aligned with kind of the way that energy flows throughout nature. We're meant to be in contact with the earth. That's providing on an energetic level a sense of safety for our body. It's helping us again discharge the positive charge that might be building up in our modern life because it's not in alignment with nature.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So, and when our system is like overwhelmed by again too much of the artificial life, too much of these artificial frequencies, it causes stress on the system, inflammation, toxicity. Energy has to be diverted into cleaning up and surviving instead of
mm,
creating. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, what you were saying about the electricity, um, because, well, my husband's an electrician and my dad has been he's not an electrician necessarily, but he's one of these like jack of all trades handymen, definitely in that field for a good part of his career. So one of the things that my dad explained to me, and then like when my husband's nerding out a little bit, explaining circuits and all that kind of stuff, is that electricity is a lot like water. And so I think of our own electric, like our, like, because first of all, we can get shocked. Like that's something I think people have trouble a little bit sometimes with, like, the understanding the language of like energy flow and like how we are charged, as humans and that sort of thing. It almost sounds woo woo, but it's really not. I mean, the fact that you can touch a shock fence and get shocked if you're not wearing, the right kind of shoes to cut off that grounding, whatever, like that's proof right there that we can't are charged, like we are electrified. I can't think of the word that explain that's like a better word for that. But um so there's one like proof basically for people to understand that you're not just speaking fairy spiritual language, which would be fun anyway, but like this is legit. This is like super, super tangible, honestly. And then when we're talking about this like buildup of charges when we're not grounding, I think a lot of people could parallel it with if we've got like a river or like some kind of water channel and there's maybe like a beaver dam or something. It's like sometimes when you've got like the irrigation channels or whatever, and the gate is closed, kind of junk, like gross stuff builds up towards the top there, or like debris and whatever. And that's what happens in our bodies. It all, the toxins, like all these things will build up and like be kind of gunky in our
Mhm.
body. And we need to be able to open that channel and reground and to let everything flush out and flow and that sort of thing. And that's what I always envision because electricity really is a lot like water, way
Yeah,
more than it is like fire or something else. It's a flow. It requires
yeah,
uh, flow.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's an electrical current. It's currency.
Yeah,
There's so many ways that our words reflect this understanding that it's energy, it's electricity, it's water. Like they all have that same current, to describe them. And one thing I always like to remind people too, it's like we do we do, we're able to measure the electrical pulse of the heart, like
right.
you can see
Even our
that
brain waves,
brain,
yes.
like you're measuring the electricity in the body, like that's how those things work. So when people think like, oh, like that doesn't make sense, like the body's electric, like, well, these things wouldn't work if we didn't have electricity in our body.
Right. Yeah.
And just my understanding, the way that I've learned through these more vitalist traditions, it's not just about the physical body. The physical body is actually the um, much further down the line in terms of creation. Like things come from the energetic levels first, to get even more esoteric, it begins in the consciousness realm, the thought realm, and then trickles down into the energetic realm. And that's where we get into the biofield and the flow of energy. Everything in nature has its own field. Every living thing has its own field. Um, and then from there, like the information contained within that energy field literally informs, creates the form of our physical body. And so our modern approach is so focused on the physical without understanding that you can change things by focusing on the energetic level, the energy body, um, and the body will follow suit then. The chemicals change, like the all the things that they want to measure in the body are actually just artifacts. They're not the core, like the root of most health issues. Like I have my own qualms with blood tests, labs, all of that, because it's like you're literally taking a snapshot in time. Like you're getting a glimpse of that exact moment. What are the chemicals in the body? Without even taking into account like the rhythms throughout the day, throughout the season, like they change. So yeah, I people get way too hung up on like those actual measurements of the chemicals in the body without
Yeah.
understanding the greater picture, the cycles, and that you can actually create change much easier when you focus on the energy system and increasing the flow of energy through the body and increasing the voltage. Because if you think of it, like our mitochondria are the parts of our cells that produce the energy. And we need that charge. Every cell needs that charge in order to fulfill its functions. And a lot of these diseases that we deal with are mostly metabolic in nature, which means it's related to the energy production, the energy cycles of the cells, which relate to mitochondria. So for me, it's like it really does come back to the energy moving through the body. And it's not just some woo-woo thing. You can look into any sort of mitochondrial science, any bioenergetics, circadian, quantum biology. Like there's all these different terms for this modern science, and it's all working with the energy of the body and understanding how it flows.
I I love everything you just said because it gives this, I think for, again, for people that are maybe coming from the more like mainstream or more allopathic, like they're new to the ideas of what we're talking about. Um, I think the way that you worded all of that just grounds it instantly, which is one of the things I love about you, because you really do have a way with words in describing all of this. To take it briefly, like briefly into the stars just a little bit for a moment, what you were talking about with, our sort of existence starting in like the consciousness and that sort of thing. It reminded me of the biblical perspective of creation, where it's creation started with a separation of it says the waters, and I could get into like the theology of all of that. I won't right now, but the idea of separating creation from the creator. And then the next thing is light, and like, let there be light. I think most people know that, quote from those scriptures. And then the navigators, the timekeepers, the sun and the moon were created next. And if you walk through, the days of creation and what is created next, that's what I was hearing, and what you were describing there is that it literally, I mean, it's a pattern echoed through, I mean, so many things, I think. Even creating a baby, literally, it starts with this, the body being in a place where we can create, and then this, these steps and bringing the soul down and all of that kind of stuff, where I really could get like very, very spiritually, could talk about it forever. But that's what I was hearing. And it's just really, it literally gave me goosebumps, because as you were describing that, again, I'm picturing the days of creation and like how that has gone from that perspective. And I feel like it's not, I'm not super well versed in all the religious, all the spiritual theologies of the whole world or anything, but it seems like it's definitely a pattern that's
Yes,
replicated over and over again.
definitely. That's
And
something that just touching on it real quick. I've studied the Vedic tradition, the ancient Indian teachings. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm into Ayurveda. Like those are all rooted in the Vedas, and they echo the same thing of the waters, the light, the sun, and the moon. Um, we also see that just when you are in tune with nature, light is literally the source of all life on Earth.
yeah,
That is our primary source of energy. The plants that we eat absorb the light, and then we eat them. But that's a small, small portion of where we get our energy. We're meant to be getting it from the light, from the sun. Light, water, magnetism. Those are our three sources of energy for the body. Um, Water is that medium that the light moves through in our body. So if our water is, toxic or stagnant,
mm,
or, we're not fully hydrated, that energy can't move through as well. So I see it on so many levels, and pretty much all the spiritual traditions that I've studied, you mentioned the Bible, like they all have this idea of light, water, the sun and the moon. That's the masculine and the feminine. When we
hmm
go to create life, we bring the masculine and the feminine together. We get a spark of light,
yeah.
and life forms in the waters. Like it's the same
I mean, yeah,
pattern.
it's giving me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool. And it brings me to, I think there's not enough I think it can't be said enough. Like, not enough people are talking about how the circadian rhythm, as an example, is like so important. And it can be, it's hard to break out of some of these habits that, like, in the modern world, we're really, there's just like so many things. We could talk, that could be a whole episode all on its own.
Yeah.
But again, with what we're talking about, and like the not just the pattern and all the things that it's encompassing, but but uh, the order of things, not skipping one and thinking that everything's going to be functioning optimally when we've missed an entire step here, like there, it, that kind of thing. And I think of the circadian rhythm. I think of our sunrises and sunsets and like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely
Again,
feel
the
like
sun and the
right, exactly. Yes, right, right. And the like our eyesight and there's just like so many things like how much our eyes matter and the light that they're taking in, just our eyes. We people are very familiar with like, oh, our skin, we need vitamin D and like all that kind of stuff, but like our eyes getting the light, the unfiltered and that kind of stuff is such a big part of that. And it's also just again, like I don't want to get, I'm starting to like rabbit trail in that direction, but
I mean,
um,
that is the primary focus that when I'm working with people, the first thing I address is the light piece.
well,
Because people don't understand when they hear circadian rhythm, and I was the same way, there's this thought like, oh, the time of day, just waking up and going to bed at the same time, like you have a regular sleep routine. That's
right.
not what the circadian rhythm is. Like
Yeah.
it's light based. Light and dark dictate the circadian rhythm. And it's going to change throughout the year depending on where the sun is, how much sunlight you have versus how much dark. Um, and that's the piece that I try to like really focus on with people is like it's the light. It's not the time of day. Like yes, the time of day is related to the amount of light, but most people just look at a clock and think that that's, the
Right.
time. No, it's the light piece.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's super important. It really it our circadian rhythm, the functioning of all of the biological processes in our body is dictated by the light. And when you focus on the light, you start to balance out your neurotransmitters, your hormones, your thyroid, your sex hormones, your leptin, your cortisol, your melatonin, like all these crucial things that it's like a whole cascade that starts to fall into place as soon as you start to focus on getting the right light signals to your body.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like I'm still such a noob when it comes to the circadian conversation, but everything that I hear about it, it makes sense. It's so within grasp. And I think that that's like one of my favorite things. It's honestly, I think, one of my values that this stuff that's so vitally important and so, pun unintended, um, and such a pivotal part of our health and existence as humans and how we move through life and everything, reconnecting us with nature is not some crazy thing that's like way beyond grasp. Like it really is within grasp. I think a lot of us need it's a like I read in your intro, your bio, remembering these different things, remembering how we can tap into our vital energy and like all of that stuff. Because our modern age, we've got a couple, I would, a couple centuries, I'd say, probably more than that. I know the light bulb is not
It's
that.
really been like the last 150 years that
Yeah,
really gotten off track. We
yeah,
have
yeah,
the light bulb, which evolved into fluorescent and LED lighting, which is absolutely horrible. Incandescent was way better than what we have now.
yeah,
I've actually like swapped all my lights back to incandescent.
yeah, us too.
Like,
Yeah,
biologically, this makes sense. Um, but yeah, the light bulb, sunscreen, sunglasses, those are all super recent, like in the
yeah,
last 50 years, and they have had such detrimental effects.
yeah,
Just because you are literally changing your light source, your source of energy for your
yeah,
whole body has shifted. And we have just, we can see the effects of that in our health overall. Just how the state of health of most people these days, it's very obvious the effects that this has had. And just, like our indoor lifestyles, obviously, like even without using artificial lights or whatever, you're still disconnecting yourself from the natural light source. You're disconnecting yourself from the ground. You know, most of our houses are not grounded at all.
Hmm.
So these are the signals that we've evolved with. We were created to be in contact with nature's signals, and we've disconnected ourselves. So, like you said, it does not have to be this grandiose thing to reconnect with nature. It's literally just getting outside more, making an effort to put your bare skin on the ground, touch trees, like get that energy flowing through you again. Um, Live in tune with the light and dark cycles of the days and let that fluctuate throughout the season. Embrace the darkness in the winter. It really does not have to be that like crazy
Yeah.
to just reconnect with nature.
Yeah. Church and State Designs is a Montana family owned company founded on the values of truth, action, and freedom. Their mission is to equip women and families with safe, discreet, and fashion forward options for carrying self defense and emergency prep tools. Church and State Designs is reinventing firearm concealment with their inconspicuous, fair trade leather accessories and uniquely crafted bag inserts that ensure the safe and accessible storage of a variety of tools, including knives, tasers, flashlights, tourniquets, etc., as well as compartments for your everyday purse essentials. Shop at churchandstatedesigns.com for fashionable self-reliance and enjoy 10% off your order when you use code HAYA10. With their revolutionary products, Church and State Designs can help you conceal carry beautifully because you are worth protecting. But I think it's funny, though, that two things. I think it can be really hard, or actually, this is mostly just one thing. Um, what can feel really challenging, I think, for most people is that it's so simple. It's like, again, like kind of we already said this, but like too good to be true. But um, I think even us rebellious types don't realize how influenced we are and how comfortable we are with like the all the modern things. And I love a good sunglass look. You know, I love
They're
those
cute. They're really cute.
Ray-Bans. You know, I love me some Wayfarers and some Clubmasters and like that, you know. There's some cute sunglasses out there, and it can be quite a look. I love. But I mean, you wouldn't find me outside without sunglasses back in the day.
Mhm.
But but it is, and not that there's like oh my gosh, you're gonna be deathly ill tomorrow if you wear sunglasses today or something. Not that that's what we're saying, but it's funny how it can be pretty difficult to let go of something as simple as sunglasses and to believe that that actually is making a difference, and because it's so simple. But it's like I feel like it can be this battle in our minds accepting that it really is pretty simple, and also accepting that it doesn't have to be like we're living in tents, even though that does sound like fun. But like, for example, right now it's very windy outside.
Yeah,
I don't like the wind.
yeah.
I don't, I hate the wind. And if I was stuck in a tent outside and it's windy, I would be pretty annoyed. So it's nice to have a sturdy, shelter that's the wind is not touching me. It's not affecting me. And, and there is a way to bring these concepts, these reconnections with nature, to bring it into our modern world and have a happy marriage there, because I do believe that's possible. I think a lot of people are finding their way, just going back to the lights, for example, changing things to incandescents. People have like they've got like the orange light in the evenings and then the like red lights in the late evening. And I love how there was something I saw recently that was like it's sunset lighting and then fire like campfire lighting, and that to me clicked because I always had to confession time for a second, mini rabbit trail, but I always had like a problem with the idea of like red lights at night. It was just like, it just seemed weird to me. It seemed like we're going back to using Ataris, and everybody had issues with their eyesight when they were using Ataris. um, and and so I was thinking that doesn't seem right. But when somebody said campfire, oh, that does make sense because that is what we would have been doing. We wouldn't have been just hoping it was a full moon or a quarter moon or something to do things at nighttime, especially up here in the north. People would have needed some kind of light, for different things. And campfire makes perfect sense. So it's again, it's sometimes it's a matter of reminding ourselves like it is not overly complicated, but it may take um, some creative reminders or creative solutions to bring it into our modern life so we are not having to feel like we're going back in time, completely doing away with these things that have been beneficial for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next question, which is I think in the fertility world, people are often like if somebody's struggling with infertility, and maybe it's what is it called? Primary infertility versus
Secondary.
secondary. Primary, secondary, anyway, secondary infertility. Um, it sometimes can feel like something that we're having to like force it, like get this body to be fertile again. So like what do you think shifts in general when we're approaching fertility and vitality is something that we're cultivating versus something we're trying to like force into existence?
Mhm. Well, so if you just think of energetically how forcing something feels, like you're having to try, it's an effort, it's you're trying to control things, you're maybe restricting a lot of things, you're trying to stick to a protocol. There's this idea that like your body has somehow failed you and that there's
Mm,
something wrong, instead of understanding that, oh, my body is literally functioning just like it should be given the signals that it's receiving, the environment that it's in, like all of the inputs coming to it, it's responding to those things. And so if you're dealing with fertility things, that's information for you. That's telling you that your body doesn't have what it needs in order to naturally be fertile. And when we shift to honoring the intelligence of the body and looking at, okay, what am I not giving the body so that it can function properly? Um, how do I need to nourish it more? Am I stuck in this like forcing mindset of like, I have to make things happen? Maybe you're overly productive, you're focused on doing all the time instead of allowing yourself to be. As women, this is especially important, being in our feminine, which is the receptive side. We need to be
mhm.
able to receive what's given to us. We can't be the ones creating, making things happen all the time. So that's a huge thing. I think is I think that's a really big issue with a lot of the fertility problems these days, especially for women who are struggling with the fertility part, is that we have been in this culture, maybe a little bit more of that feminist mindset of like, oh, I can do what men can do. Like I can be the boss babe and I can make things happen. And that energetically and biologically is a mismatch.
Mm,
Someone who wants to actually create life, because you need to be able to slow down, you need to nurture yourself, you need to first, if you want to nurture a baby, if you want to be able to grow and create and care for a baby, you need to do that for yourself first. So if you're struggling with fertility, you need to focus on, okay, how can I tap into this mother nurturing energy for myself? How can I slow down? How can I focus on nourishing foods? How can I create more space to just be instead of having to fill that time with doing?
Mm,
How can I allow my body to do what it needs to do instead of me trying to force it to do what I think it needs to do in the time that I think it needs to be done?
mm.
Uh, yeah, it really comes back to honoring the body instead of thinking that your body has failed you and that you need to fix it in some way. Like you need to just get back to the foundations of nourishing it, and creating that space and that regulation, and that more feminine energy.
I think it's really hard for people not to give everybody excuses all the time because we can do hard things. But these days, I think one of the struggles that people have is relinquishing control, especially women today. I think it's one of the lies of second wave feminism. I'm just gonna be, shots fired. But I think it's one of those things. I think there were some good things that came from feminism, and I think that there was a disservice to women that happened in that whole wave. And one of the major things being like men or women can do anything men can do. I can't bench a bazillion, pounds of weight. And like, even if I tried really hard, there would still be a man that's much stronger than me because that's a big part of their physiology. I just recently posted, some stories, a little rant about dad reflexes and that sort of thing. Like, men are just built differently, women are built differently, and we can't get away from our physiological differences and the how those roles work together. And like you were just saying, the physiology, how our bodies, women's bodies work is a lot of flowing with cycles, flowing with our cycles, flowing with the cycles of nature, and a lot and flowing is not we're in a boat with an engine like necessarily, we're not, and then we cut it and we're super still, like we're in like a canoe. And like maybe we're rowing and helping ourselves get down the stream a little bit better, but for the most part we're just on the stream and
Yeah, you move with
flowing.
the current of life. You're not trying to go upstream against it, like,
Right.
and that's how I see a lot of our modern culture, especially for, women who've bought into more of that feminist mindset of like, you're literally trying to go against your biological and, more energetic feminine design. So of course you're going to struggle then when you're trying to force something that you weren't necessarily designed for.
Right. And again, I mean, that's not a soft and squishy, like we're a bunch of wimps kind of thing either. There's so much strength that comes with our roles as well. But we're not small men. Who is it that says that? Somebody I know says that. I think maybe our friend Beth
I think
likes
it's
to say that. Yeah, Beth, Rosewood woman. She loves. We're not small men, and that's so correct. Like there's so many things that affect us in ways we don't realize when we try and push the river. I mean, that's something that midwives say. Don't push the river. Don't try to push the river. The funny thing about that metaphor too is you can't actually push the river. It's all just like in your head that you're making it go that way, but nature wins. Nature wins. And so, yeah, what you were saying earlier about our bodies are, if somebody's struggling with infertility or illness and different things from inflammation and that sort of thing, our bodies are doing what they should be doing. They're taking care of us. It's they're working, our bodies are working with what we are giving them. And so that's, instead of like shooting the messenger, we need to go upstream a little bit and look at what the messenger, is being given to begin with.
Well, we really need to focus on personal responsibility and understanding that how
Yes.
we live our life on a daily basis, the habits that we have is what creates our health. That's what determines our vitality, our longevity, our fertility, all of that is related to our daily habits. And so you can't expect someone else outside of you to fix you.
Mm,
You've created the problem. And if you're not going to actually look at how you created that problem, you're going to continue to have problems, no matter how many times you think that you're fixed with, medications or surgeries or whatever. Like you have to correct the original source of that issue, which is yourself.
yes.
Your
Yes.
environment, it's the choices you make on a daily basis. It's your thoughts, your mindset, your ability to be with your emotions and allow them to move through and not suppress them and, make them be stuck in the body then. Like it all comes back to personal responsibility. Like that's,
Amen.
and, that's not meant to be like, oh, it's a burden and it's all on me and I'm such a bad person. No, it's meant to be
No.
empowering. Like
Right.
you have power to change your health.
Yes. Yes.
You don't have to go to someone else to do it. Like that's empowering. I love that. Like,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that reminds me too that so much of this, like getting your naked eyes on the sun and that sort of thing. Who doesn't have that ability at some point in their
yeah,
day? You can live in the city and maybe you're somebody who is living in the city and you can't, you're not able to move out into the wilderness or whatever. And, you've got your 9 to 5 under the fluorescent lights and it's a cubicle with no windows or whatever. Like there are still things that we can do completely free of charge.
yeah,
You don't have to pay somebody to get naked sun on your naked eyes. You don't have to pay somebody. Well, I guess you do sort of have to pay for water, I guess. Unless you live
say,
by, yeah, unless you have, you live by a stream or something and that kind of stuff. But if you needed to, you could go find some water and filter it and, take care of that for yourself. But like, really, all of this is accessible.
Mhm.
And it, again, like you said, it doesn't have to be through medications or these expensive procedures or IVF or, all of this stuff. It is stuff, but the cost is the self-responsibility, the
Yeah, and your
willingness
comfort,
to be yes, and yes, uncomfortable a little bit. Because what changes in our life, I mean, there's a reason we have our habits. So we're comfortable with them,
yeah,
whatever they are, even if we complain about them.
yeah,
You're clearly my this is definitely something from my dad, but like you're clearly not uncomfortable enough
yeah,
to change.
yeah.
And so it's yeah, getting into that, like you were saying earlier, the consciousness first. You
Hmm.
have to change your mindset, shift it into a place of empowerment. You're not a victim.
Hmm.
We're all handed a different deck of cards, and sometimes it seems not fair because that person over there can get pregnant after blinking in her husband's direction, and this person over here is trying all these things and it's not happening for them. Like, there, but if we go, if that person who is trying the different things doesn't have the mindset to even try the different things to begin with, then how are we getting anywhere with this whole journey? Um, yeah, the radical response. I love how you said that. I love that you said that because it's. I mean, that's definitely a drum that I'm beating all the time. Radical responsibility, taking self-responsibility for these things. And yeah, it can feel a little bit like a loving kick in the butt, but it's because it's a loving kick in the butt. It's because we believe in you, person who's listening to this. It's because we know that you're capable of these things. And will there be things that are genuinely completely out of our control? We're checking all the boxes and doing all the right things, and maybe that's not changing our situation. Yes, sometimes that is going to be true because all of our souls have our own journey to live on this planet and fulfill and complete. And maybe that's part of that soul's journey, but you won't know until you try to take this torch up for yourself and walk what you do, what is within your control, and take that path to explore.
I also, again, going back to the idea that, oh, it's too simple, like the light piece and grounding and, resting, like that's too simple. Like it has to be more complicated than that. And that's where a lot of us just get so hung up, and aren't willing to just try those things before we dismiss them. Um, and I know how life-changing it was for me after struggling for like 10 years with autoimmune stuff, hormone imbalances, all of that. Never once did I look at the light piece until just a couple years ago, and it has been life-changing. Like if I would have done that right away, I would have saved tens of thousands of dollars and, a decade of my life and like feeling like poop like for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And it's just our minds are like, no, it can't be that easy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we're trained to believe that, oh, it
Right.
have to go to doctors and they have to run all these tests to figure out what's wrong with us. And then we have to like go through this whole ordeal in order to get well. And it really doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see how, like, we were all of this that we were talking about, um accepting the self-responsibility, not trying to push the river, going with the flow, learning how as women to try to relinquish and receive and all of that. How, if we are able to do that for conception, how that would mirror and create that habit within us, and that better, more health aligned mindset for our pregnancy and then our birth and then our mothering and all the cycles moving forward. It would absolutely have, I think earlier you said, a cascade effect,
Mhm.
that trickle down. All of that would I think just make our whole lives so much easier if we can learn to do that, starting from the very beginning of trying to create life and all of that. I want to pivot a little bit, because we've talked a lot about women's bodies and for obvious reasons, but one of the things that I think is overlooked a lot of the time when it comes to fertility is men's vitality.
Mhm.
So how does that play a role? How does how does the man's vitality and all of that play a role in like conception, fertility, and all of that?
Yeah. So, we can think of the more physical, like biological aspects of it, where the health of the man's sperm, obviously he's providing 50% of the genetic information that is going to create this child.
Right,
And, we pass on our vitality that way. So the health of both parents matters for the health of the child.
right,
But his sperm health, his vitality also impacts the embryo's health, and the placenta, and even, influences morning sickness throughout pregnancy in the
wait,
woman. Like,
I don't think I knew that one.
yeah, yeah, like his, because it does relate to the placenta too. And if you're having placenta
Right,
issues,
right.
that can cause different
Okay,
symptoms.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, he needs to be just as focused on his fertility as the woman does. Obviously, with infertility, they say that about 50% of the cases are male factor infertility. They're at least partially influencing the fertility or the infertility issues. So, like, it is just so important for them to focus on their own vitality. And then when you also think about like energetically and nervous system wise, how a man shows up if he's in chronic stress and he can't even really hold space and offer that protection for his woman
Mm,
and be
wow.
that provider, like she's not going to feel safe enough to
Mm,
create a new life. So energetically, he impacts how she's able um, to show up as well. So it's this dance, and they both have to be kind of he has to be in his masculine vibrant energy, and she has to be in her feminine vibrant energy, at least most of the time. Obviously there's a little bit of back and forth, um, but the most important thing is safety for a woman. We can't be in survival mode, and we can't feel like we're
Mm,
doing it all ourselves. And so that's where men need to make sure that they have the support that they need in order to manage their stress and not be so dysregulated that it's impacting their ability to show up for their woman. They might need other men to help support them and work through things, so that he's not just dumping all of his stuff on his woman, and she's having to like, she's feeling like, oh my gosh, like I have to hold this all now. Like, um,
yeah.
so yeah, it works on, physical, emotional, energetic levels there too.
Well, that makes me think too what we were talking about earlier with holding in the stress and holding, like becoming stagnant and not letting things go. And, we were talking practically like grounding with the earth and all of that.
Mhm.
But similarly to how women can bottle up all the stress and just like hang on to it, I'm thinking also that a man who is bottling up, like maybe he's feeling like he's not able to provide or protect, or something like that. And it's going, and he's not even letting her know about that. Like maybe he's keeping it to himself, but he's not opening up to anybody else about that. He's also just bottling it up. And that makes me think, that like logically, that's also not going to affect, or that's going to affect his body in a negative way. So that stereotype of like the man who just holds it all together. And I do think it is important for men, like you said, not dumping it all on her, because I think as like women, we can't, we will hold all the things that someone gives us. So if a man is like sharing all of his feelings about, let's say he's stressed about providing or something like that. If he's
Mhm.
sharing all those feelings with us, it's nice and loving to have that kind of open communication, but at the same time, like we as women are not meant to hold that, and we will. We
Mhm.
will. Even if it's subconscious, like we're not trying to, we will hold all of that, and our bodies will respond to that. So yeah, our men need to have those healthy outlets that aren't handing it all to us
Yeah.
elsewhere, like with other men, like you said. Or uh, I think my husband, he has healthy relationships with other men and all of that. But one of the things that makes a big difference for him is opening up to God and like having that prayer time. And that's the one who he's sharing all this with and unloading it with and that sort of thing. So like because I know there are a lot of men that just they maybe don't have other men necessarily to open up to, but if they're able to go out in nature and connect to God or connect to Creator, connect to nature and sort of like unload in that kind of way, I feel like that would be another really good way for them to release that and let that flow out of them also.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to have a connection to something greater than yourself. That's what we're talking about with nature. We're reconnecting with nature, something greater than ourselves, so
Right.
that we're able to pull in more energy. But spiritually, you need to have a connection to something greater than yourself too, to help create that resiliency when times are tough. You have that trust. You know that somehow something is supporting you. There's a
Yeah.
greater plan for your life. And going back to what you were saying about men not dumping their their worries and their fears on their woman. Like, as a woman, I know in past relationships, like if I don't feel like the man is providing, I will take it upon myself to make sure that we're provided for. That puts
Right.
me in my masculine. That reverses the flow of energy. It's completely, opposite of what you need when you're trying to create life.
Right.
So yeah, it's just so important for men, and there is a lot of pressure for men these
Yeah.
days, especially. to be that provider. And so many of them didn't have um, good male role models to look up to. They didn't
Right.
have that support system to learn those skills and learn how to just like how to build that confidence and their ability to step up and
Yeah.
be the protector, the provider, how to tune into like their purpose in life.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
think it's so important for men to be connected to a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that relates to your spiritual connection and beliefs, and then the deep connections, emotional connections that you have with other men too. The woman cannot be a man's only source of emotional and spiritual support.
Right. Yep.
Just like women need other women, and their own
Yeah.
spiritual connection as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that I think lends itself to like when a new life is created, that lays the groundwork for the village and the community because, we say there's the phrase it takes a village and all of that, and then we have the people that really don't like the idea of the village raising their kids because these are my kids and that sort of thing. But there is a balance in there. Like it's
Yeah.
not like it's community and village, and that's like a bunch of tents, around the campfire. That's this household and this household and this household, but then they support each other when they're coming out to live life together and that sort of thing. And I feel like,
Well,
go
and
ahead.
also when you're clear on your values, typically the people in your village share those similar values.
Right. Yep.
So that's really helpful too, because then it makes it a little bit easier to let go of control, to let other people, play a role in your child's life then, because you're like, okay, they at least share these same values. They're not going to be introducing these, other things to my child that would not be appropriate in my mind. So it's
Right. Right.
you have to be clear on who you are and what you value, and that's reflected in the people around you and the way that you live your life. So ideally you would have that commonality there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, well put. And very important too, because I think, yeah, there is a little bit of that pushback with the it takes a village, there definitely are fields of thought that I think are totally valid, but that's the key, I think, is finding the people that have the shared values. And that again, it's hard to talk about conception and vitality in general without talking about these like outer rings of that. But it's all intertwined, it's all interwoven, and the village concept and all of that, like we were talking about, we started talking about that because we were talking about being able to let the stuck energy within us, our stress and those types of things flow out, and what would be a healthy way to do that. But having people that are sharing your values again with the conception journey, the fertility journey is so important because it's so easy to feel like things are too hard and kind of to fall back into our sort of victim mindset because I think it is extremely common for people to feel like the victim of their circumstances when it comes to fertility. Most people share that opinion, or a lot of people share that opinion of like, oh, you just take this pill, or oh, poor you, there's nothing you can do about it, sort of thing. And so finding the people that share your values and understand your journey, maybe they're not, they don't uh they're not fully educated on the things you're looking into, or maybe they don't live exactly the lifestyle that you're trying to aim for, but having the people that are going to support you in that journey, and even if your journey looks a little bit different from them, having the people that are going to be cheering you on and helping not trying to drag you out to the club or something, like when you're trying to avoid alcohol or like something like that. Having the people that are going to respect that and honor your journey is a really important part of all of that too, I think, because especially when it comes to stuff like this, it's very easy for us to blame ourselves and get into yeah, to blame ourselves, think that something's wrong with us and all of that. And it takes a lot of work just in our own minds to like stay in that responsibility avenue. And again, having people around us that are helping keep us accountable and support us like in a loving way is extremely important and is going to carry on. Like, God willing, when a baby is created and there's a pregnancy and a birth and all of this kind of stuff moving forward. So, if couples listening today want to begin realigning with nature, taking practical steps with everything that we've been talking about. We've been very conceptual and you've given some examples and all of that, but what is like the first few steps that they could take if they're trying to do this for themselves, move themselves towards natural vitality?
Yeah. So we already touched on the light piece. That to me is absolutely a first step. Making sure that you're getting good natural light exposure throughout the day. Getting out near sunrise is super important because you're getting the frequencies that help to signal to your body it's a new day. We need to start, ramping up certain processes in the body. That morning light, especially, there's different apps that you can use to look at when UVA rises. It's typically an hour and a half after sunrise.
Mm.
So mid-morning in the summer, obviously it's a little bit earlier, but that is really crucial for setting off the cascade of hormones and neurotransmitters. So,
That's like the start button.
yep, yep. So if you're not getting that signal, then you can probably expect to have some imbalances in those
Mm.
areas. So that morning time is especially important. And then you also want to make sure that you're getting some midday light too. You want to get that UVB, not just because of vitamin D production, but it really boosts the testosterone and estrogen in the
Mm.
body. I was actually just listening to a podcast yesterday, and he was talking about a study where they could see that summertime, spring and summertime is like peak fertility for all animals, mammals, I
Yeah.
guess specifically, but that is when the desire to mate is highest. That's when those hormone levels are highest. And that also, when we're living naturally and have that natural light exposure, that's when we're getting more and more UVB. So that
Mm.
midday light is super important. A lot of people are afraid of UV because they think that it, causes skin damage and skin cancer and all that. There's so many flaws to those studies that
Yep.
show UV as, damaging. The key thing to remember is that you build up, you especially get those morning frequencies because that sets the whole cascade in motion. And the more of the red light frequencies that are present in the morning actually help to protect your skin from damage. That UVA in that mid-morning time helps to
Oh.
protect your skin from sun damage, helps to start producing melanin, which melanin is your body's way of absorbing that UV light to store it for use in your body. And then when that has reached max capacity, that's when you start to produce vitamin D for further energy to pull from. So there's there's a reason for all of this, and we need these all of these light frequencies from the sun. We can't take them in isolated doses necessarily, and we don't want to be blocking UV because it is so vital for our health. So
So,
the light piece is super important.
uh, really quickly, I wanted to ask you I've heard different people like, okay, if I sit in front of the window, then that's good.
Mm.
The glass can mess with the frequencies, right? Or
Yes. Yes.
block
So
certain.
ideally, if you can't make it outside, or even like, my desk is in front of a window. And so when it's not crazy super cold out, I'll open the window and, I have a screen in there, but that light is still coming through. Even if it's not direct light, like light is not linear. You'll receive those light rays even if it's not directly shining on you.
I'm glad you said that because I actually have been curious. It's like it's not direct, so does that count?
Yeah,
So,
no, it
okay.
doesn't have to be direct light. And you can even get your UV exposure in the shade, especially if you don't have sunglasses on and everything, like you're still receiving those light frequencies to your eyes and your skin, even in the shade. It's not as direct. and that's fine, especially if you're sensitive to the sun.
Mm.
But yeah, the modern windows in houses and cars, they have glazing on it that blocks UV and infrared. That's what makes it more energy efficient is the
Oh.
ability for infrared to be transferred between the glass.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, glass is not, you're not going to get the same light exposure when you're looking through glass. So
Okay.
ideally you want to have your window open. A screen is fine. Like, yeah, it might maybe change things a little bit, but it's not going to be as bad as a window. So you
Okay.
don't have to be outside all day in order to get your natural light exposure. You can just have your window open as well.
My doctor, when I was a teenager, said that I needed to be at the beach all for hours in a bikini in order to get enough, get the right kind of light and everything. So, but I'm willing to believe you more than him.
I mean, yeah, if you build up and, basically create what's called the solar callus so that you don't just burn every time you go outside, like, yeah, go hang out in the sun. Like, get as much sunshine as your body's able to tolerate. When you start to feel a little pink, cover up, or move to a shady area, put a hat on your face or a hat on your head to shade your face. And yeah, keep those sunglasses off unless there's like a lot of glare. There's times where, you might be out in the snow or on water or something where there's a lot of reflection. Like that can be really hard for the eyes and cause
Hmm.
damage sometimes. So, not to say sunglasses are completely, just horrible all the time, but you definitely don't want to be just wearing them in your day-to-day life, going for walks or whatever.
Okay, I can wear Wayfarers again. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other aspect of the light piece is the darkness then. So we want to make sure at night that we're really
Mm.
embracing the darkness. We don't want to have bright overhead lights on. We don't want to have these fluorescents and LEDs, like all of the energy efficient lights. They basically are super high in the blue light frequency, which in nature signals that it's midday. So that's causing a
Mm.
obviously mismatched signal for our biology at night then when we're
Right.
receiving the signal that it's midday. It's like, well, of course your cortisol is high because it thinks that it's daytime and that's when you need to be awake.
Right.
So actually, when we have these artificial lights on at night, it suppresses our melatonin. Our melatonin is supposed to be building as we get into the darkness and nighttime. So you really want to think about warm lighting and dim lighting. You want to be mimicking what we would naturally be exposed to if we were living in tune with nature. We would have firelight at night and it would be lower down. We wouldn't have overhead.
Right.
The sun goes down. It's not, overhead signals daytime and we need to be awake. Nighttime,
Yeah.
our light source is low. So table lamps, candles, those incandescent lights, just keep things really dim. If you need night lights, to get up in the night and use the bathroom, whatever, like get the red ones because the red ones, as long as they're dim enough, they're not going to impact your melatonin production like other ones would.
Is it okay if the red lights are up high, or should those be down low if
Ideally,
possible?
you would have them low down as well. Like
Okay.
it's not just the color of the light, it's also the location and the brightness of the light.
Hmm.
You're looking for low, dim, warm tones.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so it doesn't have to be super complicated. And the good thing, like we were talking about earlier, like we don't have to completely abandon our modern, comforts and stuff like that. There are products out there, there are light bulbs out there that are circadian friendly. Um, there are more and more companies coming out these days that
Yeah.
actually create biologically appropriate lighting. Yeah, they are going to be a little bit more of an investment, but a lot of these are still LED. They're just healthier. They have low flicker.
Hmm.
Um, the flicker is what makes it more energy efficient because it's constantly turning on and off like so many
Oh, yeah, yeah.
times. And that's what makes it more energy efficient, apparently.
Uh,
But that also, like, our body is not used to that. Like,
yeah.
the sunlight doesn't flicker.
Yeah,
It's a steady
it's not
flow.
something we perceive either. I don't, if just for somebody listening, if you've ever recorded a screen and you play back the recording, you see that it's like float, like there's like lines of light, or you'll see that the light
Especially
is flickering.
slow-mo. Like you do a slow-mo
Yes.
recording, you can see the
Yes.
flicker of most
Yeah.
light.
And that's what our eyes, our brain is smoothing it out. So
Yeah.
we don't necessarily perceive, like with our conscious mind, that it's flickering, but our eyes and our brain are registering the flicker. That we
And our
are,
nervous system
and our
too.
nervous
Like
system, yes,
it
yeah.
is so dysregulating for our nervous system because again, natural light doesn't do that. Um,
Right.
our uh, it's just very unnatural for our body. So of course it feels like, oh my gosh, this what's going on? Like this is very chaotic signals coming to us.
Right.
Yeah, so it's important to pay attention to the lights that you use inside. So many houses just have like the overhead like recessed lighting and it's LED to be energy
Right.
efficient. All that. It is harder to find incandescent lighting, but it's not impossible. You just have to buy
Right.
them online for the most part. So again, it requires a little bit of effort, taking responsibility, not just doing what's convenient and common and what everyone else does. Like if you do what everyone else does, then you're gonna have the health issues that everyone else does too. So
Yeah.
like
Well,
it's
yeah.
choose choose. But yeah, the lighting, the darkness, super important. Making sure that at night it is dark. Like if you can see your hand like a foot in front of your face, it's probably too light in your room. Like
Mm,
out your curtains, especially if you have neighbors that use outside lights. Don't use night lights in your room, especially for kids too. I know that's hard, for kids who are afraid of the dark, but also that's, you know, uh, biologically, evolutionarily, like we probably would have been co-sleeping with our kids.
yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
again, you got to think about, okay, kids aren't, of course, they're going to be afraid of the dark. Like they're not usually sleeping by themselves.
Yeah.
Uh,
But what we have is a little nightlight thing that will turn off after an hour. So
mhm.
they can fall asleep being able to see a little bit and then it goes to sleep, and for the most part our boys haven't had any trouble. I think what we've done, because we've had people teach them to be afraid of the dark, because they generally, honestly, I don't think naturally we are like
Yeah.
really afraid of the dark. Um, that's something that we've created in our mind, I think, a lot of the time. And what we've done to sort of like help correct that, help heal that a little bit, is take them out at night to look at the stars and talk about how the night, when it's nice and dark, we can see the stars, and we can, what can we see out here, and like to familiarize them with the things that we see during the day. It's all, like there's like a fence, or there's your bed or whatever. Like here
Yeah.
it is in the light, here it is in the dark, and just like helping them orient themselves that way.
Yeah.
But
Again, I
yeah,
mean, we've disconnected from our natural ways of living, which would have included living outside at night too,
yeah,
or being outside more at night. It makes us feel safe to come inside and to have the lights and everything, instead of just learning how to be in the darkness and still feel safe,
yeah,
to be comfortable in the darkness. So,
yeah.
yeah, the light piece is huge. That's the first thing that I start with people. And then the other thing would be eating seasonal, local, real foods. Like, again, these foods grown in our local environment are receiving the same light signals,
Mm,
that we do. And so that creates coherence. What we put in our body is matching our external environment, the signals that we're receiving. And I mean, not to get like too sciencey and everything, but like foods grown in tropical areas near the equator, they have different information stored with them that is harder for our bodies to fully process up here, given
mm,
our. So one of the things would be deuterium. It's a form of hydrogen. Um, there's higher deuterium content in tropical fruits. And in order to fully break down and use deuterium, we need higher amounts of UV light, which we don't
mm.
get up here. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
unless you're living at the equator, you're probably going to have issues, fully using those nutrients in those foods that you're eating. So
Hmm.
that's you know, it's important to be able to source your food locally, eat a local diet as much as possible, have it be in season, which means it's going to fluctuate throughout the year. When you're living at a northern climate, you're going to probably eat more carnivore style in the winter, more keto, more fats and proteins in the winter because you don't have fresh produce available. You have
Right.
your preserved foods, your canned vegetables from the summer, or your ferments, or whatever,
Yeah.
your cellar stable storage foods, but you don't have all of your fresh greens and your fruits and all of that stuff. So it's going to fluctuate throughout the year. That's healthy. You don't want to be eating your smoothies and salads and stuff in the winter. Like that just doesn't make sense. And again, these things are only possible because of our modern lifestyle when we have access to these grocery stores that ship food in from all over the world. If you were actually getting your own food, growing it or sourcing it from your neighbors, you would naturally be eating seasonal local food. So, really, a lot of this goes back to thinking about how did your great great grandparents live?
Mm.
Like, they didn't have the health issues that we are dealing with today.
Yeah.
They were much more in tune with natural cycles, these seasonal cycles and daily cycles. Yeah, those are huge. And then another part of our modern life, of course, is just all the exposure to toxins. So not
Mm.
only the toxic light that we've talked about, but also the chemicals in foods. If you're not eating organic foods and you're eating processed foods, you're likely getting a lot of extra things that your body then has to try to get rid of. It's adding an extra burden, and so it's using energy to keep your body clean and running efficiently instead of using that energy to channel it into fertility. So that's a major factor too, is like what are you putting in your body, whether it's your food or different medications that you might be taking that your body then has to try to process, personal care products, things that you're putting on your
Mm.
skin, hair, um, cleaning products that you're using in your home. Like all of these things can add an additional burden to your body. And a lot of these are endocrine disruptors. They
Yeah.
interrupt hormone production or the ability for your body to actually recognize the hormones. So we have to be really aware. Like, again, it's our responsibility to pay attention to what we're putting into our body because these big companies that produce these things, they don't care. They
Yeah.
they don't care about how it's affecting your health. So
Yeah.
it's on you to make sure that you're not putting these things in your body. And then just supporting your body with gentle detox. Different ways would be like sauna, making sure that you're sweating to get out these things on a regular basis, making sure that you're moving your body. Again, maybe
Yeah.
because it's going to make you sweat, but also because you need that movement to move your lymphatic system. Your
Right.
lymphatic system is, where all those waste products are being uh, shuttled. And then they need to get to the detox organs of your body. There's certain herbs that you might want to implement, gentle ones. It doesn't have to be some intense detox protocol.
Right.
If you're in a depleted state, you don't have the right, light signaling, you don't have the right nutrition, your body's not going to be able to detox appropriately until it has those foundational elements. And so if you start an intense detox protocol, you're often going to do more damage than.
Mm.
So I focus on getting those pathways open to begin with, nourishing your body, paying attention to the light, resting, give your body the resources it needs, and then things will start clearing naturally on its own. So you don't have to do anything super intense for the detox, but it is important because it does interfere with, again, the flow of energy. We're using up more energy to cleanse the body and everything, and not channeling it into our fertility then.
Yeah, that makes me think of the like survival mode versus,
Yeah.
ready to thrive, which
Yeah.
is what creating a new baby, what that comes from. What are you doing that people can tap into, tap into their own vitality and fertility and all of that? Like, let people know how they can work with you and how to reach you and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I do have a program that is meant for couples focused on fertility. And that's a 3 month program because I do feel like 3 months is the minimum time that you should spend on preconception before you even start trying to get pregnant. Um, Sometimes you need longer than that, especially if you're coming from a very depleted state. If you've been like
Mm.
vegetarian or vegan for many years, like you're probably going to need at least 6 months to a year. If you've had a lot of toxic exposures, various things, like you might need longer than 3 months, but 3 months should be, in my opinion, the minimum. That's also, it relates to our follicular cycles and also sperm production takes roughly 3 to 4 months. So yeah, that time period is, I feel like, the minimum. And so I have a 3 month program for couples, and we go into all of these foundational things. I have a very in-depth assessment that we go through, and we look at health holistically. So we're looking at the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. I'm looking at things through the energetic lens that I tend to see things through. But I also bring in more of the scientific approach too. I like to bridge those things. And so that's a good program for couples to move through who are wanting to focus on their preconception. Um, I also, for people who, aren't worried about fertility and maybe are just dealing with their own health issues, and want to have individual sessions, I also have a 3 month program. I feel like 3 months is a good time for people to really start to implement these things. And the benefit of working one on one is that we can walk through any of these blocks that you have. Like, maybe your lifestyle is a little bit different. You have certain things going on. And you're like, I don't know exactly how to implement these changes in a way that works for me. Like, we can actually talk and work through it then.
Yeah.
And I like to make sure that we have those follow ups so that one, you have accountability, and two, you have support to help you figure out, if you're having troubles making these changes, what can we do to make it easier, and how can we break it down into baby steps, so that it's not overwhelming, to get in line with these foundations again. So, yeah, the one-on-one programs are the most beneficial because it obviously is more specific to you.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have my online programs created yet, but I am teaching locally up here in the Flathead, in Big Fork, especially. So I have like a 4 week series that's starting in March that is going over all of the foundations that I teach. These are the foundations that help support your health no matter what it is that you're worried about, whether it's hormonal, fertility related, or maybe it's autoimmune, or just like maybe you're more in perimenopause and menopause state and
Mm.
your hormone imbalances at that stage of your life, or you're worried about like your longevity, the aging, and making sure that you're supporting your health into the older ages. Like these are the foundations you need to focus on no matter what stage you're in. So I am teaching a series in Big Fork, starting,
Montana.
yep, Big Fork, Montana.
Yep.
Yep. And my goal is to, put these into an online course then too. But I really like the in-person stuff.
Yeah. It makes a big difference,
Even,
I think.
yeah, even working with clients, like I prefer doing it in person, but I'm happy to do it online too. We have these tools available, so we'll make it work. But in person is just really really preferred for me, but
Yeah.
I want to help as many people as possible, so I understand the benefit of offering it online as well.
Yeah.
And then I
Awesome.
also, I didn't mention I have my herbal products, which
Yeah.
can be helpful. A lot of people think of me as an herbalist. That's one small portion of what I do. I really consider myself a vitalist, more of a naturopath in the traditional sense of using
Mm.
nature to help
Hmm.
us heal. So plants obviously play a role in that. And so I have my herbal products, my medicines that I use, and I love, creating custom formulas for people based on their unique situation, what they're dealing with. And those are supplements to the lifestyle, the foundations that I talk about. So
Love that. Love that. Love you.
Love you
um, all
too.
the all the things that or all the links and whatnot to reach you will be in the show notes. Um, but that's all we have time for today. I feel like maybe we should I almost feel like we should try to get together another time for an episode on more on the circadian rhythm or some of that angle of things. Um, we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, thank
Well, and
you
even
for
moving into like the pregnancy and postpartum, how important the circadian rhythm is there.
yeah,
Um, it's not just important for your fertility and vitality
right.
overall. It's very important during those phases of
Yeah.
yeah, the journey.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. That so it's we will do it. You're right. Yeah, but thank you so much for chatting with me today, for bringing all your wisdom, and I love talking to you about all of this stuff. I love how you explain it. It makes so much sense. I feel like it can be difficult to grasp some of these concepts, but I think that you have a real talent in making it attainable, making it palatable, and all of that. So I appreciate you meeting with me today and letting me capture some of your wisdom. And yeah, so we will meet again for that other episode that we're talking about. And until then, that's it for today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you felt inspired. I hope you get out and get that sunrise in your eyeballs. Feel free to share your input in the comments below and try to keep things civilized as always. Remember, we can only do our best with the tools that we have. And with that, bye bye for now. If you're preparing for birth intentionally, your best starting point is the private audio-only sequence called the Secret Series. It's designed to help you understand what actually matters with clear direction in each episode. It's free and only available to subscribers at earthboundparenting.org. Intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video is medical or legal advice. By engaging with this content, you agree to take full responsibility for your own experiences and decisions as a result. Everything on this channel is property of Prudence Ministries, a private healing association, unless otherwise stated. Blessed is Adonai, divine sovereign, who brought us to this place and this time for this purpose.